Hey everybody, Brandon with Bearded CB82, and we've got something special. This is the BTC500DP 9th generation plasma cutter by Bestarc. So I like their little bitty welder. It's handy. I've used it a couple times here in the shop, especially rebuilding some battery racks and stuff like that for some of the units. Comes in handy because our other one, we just ran out of argon for it, so we've got to go get that refilled. So but for the heavy stuff, the big arc welder works great, but for a lot of the smaller stuff where we're not blowing through or don't want to blow through, the little bitty buzz box and MIG welder has actually turned out pretty nice. So I'm excited to see this because this one is a 50 amp excuse me, 50 amp plasma cutter, 220. Can run off a 110, so the difference between 110 and 220, obviously you're working with your amperage on that to where you probably want a 30 amp breaker dedicated to something like this, keep from tripping the breaker, but also you're limiting your cutting power. So the fact that this is bolt, and it should come with everything, it says quite a bit. So we're gonna flip this around, see everything that's inside of here. We're gonna give it a little test. And of course we've got a nice little bitty list right here of everything that should be in here. Plasma cutter, the torch, ground clamp, 2 hose clamps for the air inlet, the tips, so we got 2 of those, 2 electrodes, 1 air hose, 1 wire adapter for your 50 amp. It's a 60% duty cycle, so your 3/8, your 1/4 inch, stuff like that, that'll work just fine. 1/2 inch, I'll have to see if I've got something 1/2 inch around here. I might not, but we'll give her a run through. But basically your duty cycle means it works up to so long, and then you're going to have to give it a little bitty rest because you're working the innards of it pretty good. And 60% duty cycle, that's right there with a lot of your basic Lincolns, some of your smaller Millers, the things that are about this size out of a plasma cutter that you're going to get. Unlike if you go with Hypertherm or Thermal Dynamics, you are able to get a lot more expensive, like 10 times the price, plasma cutter that you can do a lot with, especially some of them, like the Thermal Dynamics, you can convert over to 460, which also increases some of your duty cycle load, but is the machine has to work a little bit less as far as its amperage output for cutting power, but those are just a few things to worry about because I have worked with Thermal Dynamics before at the steel plant. Those are awesome. And we're going to open this up and go ahead and see what we got. All right, packaged as well as the little welder was. These run, this was what, about $230-ish, as I try not to knock the tripod. So definitely in your budget end. Again, you're doing occasional medium duty work where you might want one of these like we do around here. We've got a gas axe, so with a really good head on it, so if we really need to cut some heavy stuff, that's not a problem. But a plasma cutter like this, definitely good for around the shop, for the stuff that we need when we do need to do it. Ooh yeah, the good foam, very good foam. Oh, as I knock stuff around. That was an understatement. So we've got the unit, 220 with the right plug. We've got that. Set that right there. Oh. There's all the good foam too, so that's nice. Accessory packets full of stuffs. Q air compressor. Our adapter plug That'll come in handy for a lot of little things, come to think of it. For 220 to 110. Here we've got clamps, tips, couple of electrodes, pipe tape. We'll talk about that. There's our hose, ground clamp, plenty good amount of lead on that. About the same quality as the welder. Our destruction manual, I'll be reading over that myself. And then our stinger, or our torch tip, cable assembly. Oh, and wrench. Okay. With our tool wrench for the tips. Alright. How do we look? Got a swivel end. That's actually nice. Kind of like that. We've got, is that a ceramic of some sort? Got the, looks like it has been shop tested at the facility. Probably just make sure it does whatever stock cut they, this is, that's a long torch. That is a really long torch. Then our control and connector there. Then for the air to come through. So, sweet. So the air hose, I might figure something else out. It's probably going to have to run regulated. So I'm going to take a look at this real quick and I'll get back to you. Okay, so it gives you a little bitty rundown of the couple different models, the 7th, 9th, and 10th gen. How plasma cutter works, you know, 4th level, all the other stuff, components, the shield cup, electrodes, and looks like 61 to 74 psi. Need to keep it less than 75 psi, and this is for your voltage levels. So it's got indicator bars for your voltage up as you go to increase your voltage. So 0 to 74 psi on your inlet. So looks like I'm gonna have to configure my regulator. I've got a regulator for testing. I'll have to dig out and get that hooked up somehow onto this little guy. We'll go from there. That way we can regulate our pressures, because I don't know if it comes with a regulator. On-off switches in the back. Air in. Okay, so I should be able to just hook a coupler right onto my regulator, which is good. There's all of our hookups. Okay. Be right back. All right, so a little bit more. So we got the 220-110 model. We'll be running 220. PSI range is 30 to 60 PSI. Maximum cut 14 millimeters, so almost 9/16 of an inch. You can sever 16 millimeters, so that's 5/8 of an inch. You can sever, and that's at 70 PSI, which is just shy of the max. Cutting speed 200 millimeters a minute. Display screen, power plug, air filter, inlet, fan coming out the back, power switch, main on off. All right, let me get back into setup. Okay, so it looks like we've got a actual regulator on board, so that's going to save me a lot of troubles. Power knob, pilot arc, ground, torch connectors. There's the air regulator right there. So it's all built into one unit. That's actually pretty slick. So this here is your air regulator. So that'll be nice. So let's get this set up and give it a couple tries. Alright, so got my welding hood, got it preset up to about a shade 7 or so on the auto darkening. I've got a couple of pieces here. Got some scrap tailpipe. Got some thin, 14 gauge and some 1/8 inch stock that I had on my toolbox. I brought these from the old man's. So we're going to give this a couple of cuts with these. Is this, this might be 5/32, or a little bit thicker stuff. This will be about a thickness of the regular stuff we'll be cutting here at the shop. I don't have any 3/8 material here with me at the moment. I don't know if I have some at home. Down the road, if we do, we'll give you a little bitty note on that. And then this is a pretty thin 16 gauge-ish tailpipe, 4-inch tailpipe section. So we'll try some on that as well, see how that does. I think that's galvanized. This is just a straight A36 stock steel. So we'll give this a little bitty rundown. Already got the air hooked up into the back, got it plugged in, and it hasn't blown up yet, so that's always the first sign of a good thing. And booting the screen up, as you can see, booting up 81 psi. Pull that out. $55 on the cutting. $54, 15 amps, 20. And let me go get the instructions real quick to double check my settings that I'm going to need for each of these, so I'll remember that in my head. Okay, right here on top, it actually has, for 220, your thicknesses and amps, and the amps you should be pushing to cut it. And it starts at 3/16, and your air pressure 40 to 50. Oops, a little bit too far. So we'll do that. First up, we don't have a weld bench here, so we just kind of make do with sawhorses or whatever we can as far as stuff goes. Get my gloves on, rearrange my air hose, that can get out of the way, and I'm going to tighten up my weld hood. Start with the pipe, see how we do. Ground clamp. Like I said, I think this is galvanized. This isn't stainless or anything like that. So we'll see how it does on the pipe. Definitely capable. I think we're burning just a hair hot. For that thickness, we'll bring our amperage down just a little bit. I think we got our air pressure good. Looks like a pretty good cut. All right, I'm liking this. There you can see the tip. So no contact on that. That works good. So we'll keep the same setting and see what we can do for a stock cut-ish on this guy. Okay. So blowing through just a little bit hard. I could probably adjust all that slag right there. That'll chip off. That's here at the end. And then right there, as you can see, we do have some slag on the cut piece as well. Don't mind the straightness. I didn't have a guide that I clamped to this, so that's just the operator error on this one. So I think bump the amperage down and probably go down to about 25 or 30 psi. Excuse me. That probably get us to the setting we'll need. Let me try that again. Amperage down to 5th. We'll go lowest. So about 35 psi on our operating pressure. Try that again. All right. So for this thinner stuff, it's a little cleaner. All that'll just knock right off. So that's good. So yeah, about 30 psi, 15 amps. Probably get us right to where we want on this level. Now, okay, there's our thin stuff. Yeah, it did turn out a lot better. Something a little thicker, 1/8 inch. And so, that's at 30 amp. Keep the same air pressure, and then we'll go to 23 amps on our output. All right. So, how are we looking? On the 1/8 inch. So, I think maybe just a little lighter on the amperage. There. And keep the same PSI. Let's see how that turns out. As you can see, do have a little bit of build up there, but that's the nice thing about plasma cutters. You hit that with a hammer or a chisel and it just knocks that clean off. You don't have to really worry about grinding. Cut itself, ooh, that's a little warm. That looks pretty fair. Focus. All right. So let's try down to 20 amp. 50. Alright, try this again. Does have a little bitty safety cover that pops out. That's looking a little better. A lot more sever to it though. So, but once you get these dialed in, and of course, like if you set a jig plate up or a guide plate to where you can just mark your chalk line, clamp something down to where you can run your guide right across, that does work out a lot better, especially if you've got a really good weld table to work on or some type of better surface. So, how do I like it? Definitely capable. We'll have to try and find some thicker stuff, or might have to wait till I can get to either the hardware store or back and raid some of my folks' stash to get things going. But she definitely works, and she's definitely going to work awesome for the stuff we have here. Again, I like that it's got that little articulating, that little safety feature, so to speak. Does help keep you from, if you go to grab it, from accidentally bumping it. Does pop right open pretty easy. So 45. So yeah, maybe 50 psi. We'll play around with it, but you know, that's why you always keep some scrap around, so you can play around, get used to it, trying a new machine. It doesn't matter if you're going, say, from a Lincoln directly to a Miller, directly to a Thermal Dynamics, things like that. Every single one of them is going to operate just a little bit differently in their settings. So you're going to have to play around, have some fun with them in the time being that you're getting used to it. And yeah, so always keep some scrap stuff on hand where you can go ahead, play around with it, and go from there. So, curious to see how well this will work with 3/8. Really curious, because there could be some fun things to be made that can be taken out to Willys at the range. So, there you have it. Bestarc. I do like the displays on these. The displays are really good, clear, same as a little welder. This is just almost the same size as that welder, maybe a little wider. Definitely capable for as small as a package as it is, especially for 220. So I'm liking it. It'll definitely be handy here in the shop. So y'all take care. Remember, shop safety is just as important as firearm safety. You screw something up, somebody could die. And I'll be leaving some links down below. Feel free to check them out, and if it's something you're interested in. And if you got better experience or more experience with these two on how they do work with the heavier stuff, leave that stuff down below. So other than that, y'all take care and have a good one.